Before we dive into the prompting part of this module, I want to have a quick look at Midjourney's versions. Because after version 4, version 5 was introduced and came with some very important changes. For example, version 5 can display more realistic individuals, and they fixed important things connected to that, like for example, they fixed the finger count. Individuals now typically have 5 fingers per hand and not 6 or more. So version 5 or newer are the most advanced models Midjourney offers now, and I also recommend to get started at least with version 5. However, Midjourney continuously improves the image generation model, and therefore with the latest version we get even sharper images and more details. This latest version now is called version 5.1. At the point in time when you're watching this video, there might be an even newer version. So 5.1 is the most advanced version, but it is displayed here in a different line on the slide. This has a reason, because version 5.1 is a so-called opinionated model. Midjourney's goal is to make image creation as easy as possible. Therefore, such an opinionated model simply means that the AI executes ideas based on shorter prompts. So you could say that the AI is more creative and tries to understand what you're looking for. This is actually great, and we will also use version 5.1 in this module now, because 5.1 is also the default model used in Midjourney at the moment. But if you want to be more explicit about what should be displayed on the image, if you don't want the AI to come up with creative ideas, instead you want to define all the details that should be part of the image on your own, then you can also jump back to an unopinionated model, which requires more detailed descriptions. Unopinionated models are version 4 and 5, for example. As mentioned, I recommend version 5 or newer. However, if you want to have the latest model changes, the latest updates, so sharper images, more details and so on, that were introduced with version 5.1, but you want to have an unopinionated model, then you can also use version 5.1 raw. So depending on your use case, this might be the best of both worlds. So you have the latest Midjourney model in an unopinionated way. So you provide all the details about what should be displayed. As mentioned, in this module, we'll use version 5.1 now, because in my opinion, it works really great. Still, I want to give you one example about the different outcomes that you get with the different versions based on this quite simple prompt. I just want to have a photo of an elephant walking through the desert. This is version 4 and it doesn't look too bad in my opinion, but it obviously lacks a lot of details. The desert looks very generic. You can immediately see that this is a generated image. With version 5, things changed significantly. Version 5 now renders very realistically looking images in my opinion. The desert is a lot more detailed, and this could be a real photo if you look at it at first sight. With version 5.1 raw, which is the next example now, we get even more details. We get more vibrant colors at first sight, so this could be a bit too artificial, depending on what you want. But the desert looks very realistic in my opinion. It comes with a lot of details, great shadows. Same thing applies to the elephant. Finally, version 5.1, not in the raw version, created this year. Also very detailed in my opinion, a great looking elephant, lots of awesome shadows. In this specific example here, personally, I think that 5.1 raw creates the better images. But as mentioned, this obviously depends on the prompt and what you want to display. So for this module, we'll stick to version 5.1. And I can tell you already, we will create amazing images with this version. For your personal projects and to play around, you can also have a look at version 5.1 raw or version 5 if you want to. So this is what the models are all about. We'll now select version 5.1 as mentioned, so you can check your settings and there make sure that 5.1 is selected. 5.1 is also the default model used in Midjourney now. With that, we are ready to explore prompting now. Instead of writing random prompts, I want to guide you through a more structured way to create your images. The idea behind all the prompts we will use in the next lectures is to define the basics, so what should be displayed on the image in general, and then we'll control the details of the output that should be generated. To be able to do this in a structured and easy to replicate way, we'll focus onto 5 key areas to generate amazing output. It is important to know though that Midjourney does not understand grammar, sentence structure, or words like humans. It's all about the word choice, so the words you include in your prompt and how precise, how specific these words are. So the idea behind this prompting template is that you ensure that you include all the important words, all the important areas that should describe your image. You don't have to follow such a prompting template though. Based on our experience though, it's easier to create images according to your preferences when following along a certain structure, a certain prompting template. So the goal is to write prompts in a more structured way, in a way that we can replicate for other images that we want to generate. We will now explore the 5 key areas we defined step by step in a logical order in practical examples. So the first area we'll have a look at is the medium or the art style. So basically how the image should be generated. Should it be a photo? Should it be an illustration? Should it be a sketch? Should it be a 3D animation? And so on. So what medium should be used to create this image? The second core area will be the subject. The subject describes the core content of the image. In our first example, the elephant was the core subject, so to say. Now, in the first example, we'll use the following descriptions for these 2 areas. Medium will be a photo, and a photo is something you can always use in Midjourney 5.1 whenever you want to have a realistic photo of something. And the subject will simply be a pirate, so a photo of a pirate. And once again, keep in mind that Midjourney doesn't understand any grammar, any commas, and also not these categories, these areas we define. This should just be a guidance for you to create prompts in a more logical, in a more structured way. So back in Midjourney, we'll now add a photo. As said, Midjourney 5.1, this is equal to a realistic image of something, of a pirate. One thing about the way I write the prompt now, I could also add something like photo of pirate to keep it very short. Personally, I'm a fan of a mix, so I want to keep things as descriptive as possible, in certain parts of the prompt at least. For other areas of the prompt, which we'll explore, we'll keep it shorter with keywords only. There is no definite right or wrong though, so there are different ways that lead to great images. This is just the way we found out to work for ourselves, to work quite well, therefore we'll follow this approach. So a photo of a pirate. Now, if we run this prompt, this obviously doesn't work, this sometimes happens. What we do then, typically to kind of fix this, is simply adding the same prompt again. Then both prompts should be executed within the next minutes. So this seems to be a little bug here in Midjourney that we sometimes see. So we got a result here. Let's view these in full quality. And I think this looks pretty impressive actually. Midjourney 5.1 tends to be a bit on the artificial and overstyled side, so it depends if you like that. We can tweak this a bit, of course. But generally, with that very simple prompt, we got 4 pictures, 4 images of the pirates here. However, we didn't define any details. This is just Midjourney's interpretation of a photo of a pirate. Now by adding other types of information, we can fine-tune our image easily. So after defining your main content, as I call it here in the image, you can now continue with the setting, the background, and the general atmosphere. We'll dive into all these key areas in detail in the next lectures. So just an example for the setting here would be a close-up image. We had such close-ups now already in the example prompt we generated. So here it won't change too much probably. Still, we will play around with the setting a lot in the next lectures. So the setting, so the perspective and so on, is an important factor you can define in the image. The background so far was barely visible. Here we could say that the ocean should be in the background. And regarding the atmosphere, lots of things to define here. Here, for example, we could say that the lighting should be cinematic. So it should have more this movie kind look, so to say. All these areas I'll refer to as the so-called details. So whenever you write a prompt, you can follow this logic to first define the main content in your prompt, and then you add all the details that define the additional parts, the additional characteristics of your image. Coming back to our example now, this would mean that I simply copy my initial prompt here, add it again. And now, as we know, Midjourney doesn't understand commas and so on. For better readability, I typically separate the medium and the subject with a comma from the specific details that I add. So here I'll add a comma now and define explicitly that the image should be a close-up, which we kind of have already here, at least in some of the images, but I only want to have close-ups. And I'll add the ocean in the background. You could also keep this shorter with ocean in the background or ocean in background. As mentioned, I like to add some words for better readability. And we want to have cinematic lighting. So this is a more specific prompt with more details, and this should also have an impact on the way the images are generated now. And although the images are not generated yet, you see, for example, that our setting here with the close-up gives us much better detailed shots of the face of the pirate. If we compare it, for example, to this image here that we had in our more generic prompt, we can already see the ocean in the background. So Midjourney also added this ocean in here. And if we compare the lighting, you see this is a more cinematic look actually. It's a brighter look than the one we had before in the first prompt. And if I now have a look at the full quality images, then I know that this is a subjective thing, but in my opinion, this looks absolutely stunning. For example, this image here could be taken straight off a Pirates of the Caribbean movie or something like that. This looks really amazing. If you look at the eyes, if you look at the sun, the hair, if you look at the reflection here of the sun in his face, all the shadows, and so on, this looks absolutely stunning. And that's also one of the really great features of Midjourney 5.1 now. With relatively simple and small prompts, you get these amazing outputs. So with these 5 key areas, we have actually all the tools at hand to create all kinds of different images. So in the next lectures, we'll dive into all of these areas separately. And I want to show you how easily you can change the look of the image by changing one or multiple of these areas.